is layering hydration. Think of the base to be dewy. So I'm starting with skin prep by locking in hydration into my skin with my regular moisturizer. I am someone who has very oily skin, and although I want my base to look dewy for today's look, I don't want my face to look greasy. So I'm using a mattifying primer from Maybelline. Those of you who have normal to dry skin, go with a dewy primer. The wet makeup look isn't some random trend that was born on Instagram or Pinterest. Rather, it has its roots in editorial fashion photography and runway. Makeup artists in late 90s and early 2000s started experimenting with gloss finish and liquid textures because glossy finish gave models an utterly mesmerizing effect under the camera lighting. This gave models that out of water, dewy goddess vibe that matte makeup just could not achieve. So we want our base to be pretty sheer and dewy for the imperfections of your skin to peek through. Because the goal here isn't about hiding your natural features, rather enhancing them. So to achieve that, I'm mixing a dewy skin tint with a foundation that runs a little deeper on my skin tone, as the skin tint makes me look a little ashier on the areas of my face where I have hyperpigmentation. That is a little around my mouth and on my forehead. Next, I'm adding a little definition to my face by a liquid contour from e.l.f. in the shade Deep and Tan. And I like to use a concealer brush for the precise blending of the contour. So fast forward to today, the social media brought it back in a big way. Glossy lids, luminous cheekbones and high shine lips are everywhere, from red carpet to social media. The wet makeup look is officially the face of modern glam. Oh, by the way, I'm stealing this technique of nose contouring from the OG Smitha Deepak. I'm a big fan of hers. I've learned so much from her. She's one of the very few people that intrigue my interest in makeup. Okay, so to highlight my cheekbone, I'm not really using a highlighter. Rather, I'm using a dewy blush from e.l.f. in the shade Coral Crush. This is going to add subtle sheen to my face without really overpowering. As I have pretty oily skin, I don't want to make it too dewy. Eventually, the oil from my skin will start peeking through and I don't want to make it worse. But those of my girls who have a dry skin, definitely add a liquid highlighter maybe. Next, I'm doing a little concealing around the corner of my mouth and underneath my eyes. And for that, I've taken a concealer from Elegant in the shade Fawn. This is a very close match to my skin tone, or should I say, it's like my skin tone in this tiny tube packaging. It gives you a pretty natural finish, so perfectly syncing with the look that we are going for today. Also, I'm using whatever that is left on my brush around my mouth because I could see some pigmentation peeking through. And I felt the brush is a little sheerer, so I'm intensifying the pigment. For today's look, I'm deflecting from my usual routine. Generally, I set my entire face with powder, but for today, I'm just keeping it limited to my T-zone and underneath my eyes. Your brows literally add structure to your face, so I'm gonna start the eye makeup by filling in the sparse areas in my brows with a micro brow pencil from NYX. This allows you to mimic the hair-like strands because boxy brows are literally out of the window, girls. I'm using an eye primer from PAC to prep my eyelids for the eye makeup. Next, I'm defining the socket of my eye with a bronzer using a fluffy eyeshadow brush. You can use an eyeshadow as well if you don't have a bronzer. Since I have pretty hooded eyes, I'm keeping the placement of the color above my natural crease. Otherwise, you can just keep it limited to your natural crease only. I'm using a little on my lower lash line as well. Runway artists use gloss on their lids for that reflective editorial shine. But is that practical in real life? No, the answer is no, it's not. Thankfully, your girl has a very beautiful alternative for that. We are using this Colorpop Supershock glitter eyeshadow in the shade Ritz. This has a cream to powder formula, so it applies like a cream but gives you the finish of a powder. It gives you that dreamy wet effect that we want for this particular look. The glitter particles are very fine, almost gives that effect of stardust on your eyes. But if you have hooded eyes like me, don't forget to use an eye primer so that it doesn't crease. I'm blending the edges of the glitter with some bronzer on an eyeshadow brush. I'm keeping my lower waterline bare, but I am tightlining my upper waterline with a black kohl. Finishing the look with some mascara. I'm skipping the falsies here. If you want, then you can use some false lashes too. Next, I'm using a shimmery eye pencil in off-white color to highlight the inner corner of my eyes. Initially, I planned to use this brown lip liner as the lipstick, but it was just not doing the justice. So I ended up using this very stunning, my favorite lipstick from L'Oreal in the shade Worth It Intense. I am so much in awe of this shade on my skin tone that it's hard to express. Adding a little highlight on my collarbone. Glossy lips are the heart of this look, so I'm gonna be adding some clear gloss on top of the lipstick to give that juicy wet effect to my lips. I've used lip gloss from e.l.f. If you want a good lip gloss that stays on your lips, do give this a try. This is my second tube and I have no complaints from this. One of the key elements of this look is the hair. For that, I have dampened my hair approximately 70% and I've added some styling gel and coconut oil on top to add that shine. And this, my friend, is how the finished look has turned out. As you have already seen, do let me know what you all think about this. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Till then, bye.